Jamil Hamad of Time Magazine is back with us to discuss the situation which persists regarding the Israelis and the Palestinians, the fact that negotiations are still stalled, the fact that Presidential Envoy George Mitchell has not succeeded in bringing the two sides together, and the fact that the prospects of that happening soon seem to become dimmer and dimmer as the days go by. The latest thing going is the possibility of what they call separate negotiations or shuttle diplomacy, in which Senator Mitchell would go from Ramallah, where he could talk to Mahmoud Abbas and Saeb Erekat, to Jerusalem, where he could talk to Benjamin Netanyahu and perhaps Avigdor Lieberman or Ehud Barak. But that's not what was originally intended by the United States, because that's not direct negotiation. Well, is that the way you think it's going to happen? Do you think that it's going to turn out this way?
Taking into consideration the fact that Mitchell has failed to achieve anything, and the American administration failure in bringing the Palestinian and the Israelis together, so the Americans now are trying to pressure Mahmoud Abbas, who is capable of receiving this pressure, to find a formula. This formula may send the signal to the Arab world and the Europeans that the Americans have succeeded in bringing the Israelis and the Palestinians together. But the real problem are still there, and I doubt very much that the American formula with bringing indirect negotiator in Ramallah and Jerusalem will bring any fruit.
To the extent where I personally believe it's becoming redundant and unnecessary. The more I observe the shuttle diplomacy of Mitchell, the more I become convinced that it's a journey to collect losses and save face, not more than that. And that pretty soon, even this trickle will end, and we'll get back to what Henry Kissinger said a decade ago. It will take a lot more bloodshed on both sides, the Israelis and the Palestinians, in the Middle East, because before the sides will soften and be ready to seriously sit around the same table and negotiate.
Well, I didn't think you were that much of a pessimist, Yitzhak.
Yes, I am.
But maybe you are on this issue. But still, contributing to the pessimism, it seems to me, is the attitude being taken by President Mahmoud Abbas, or Chairman Mahmoud Abbas, depending on how you want to term him. He has been saying things like this: there can be no negotiations unless those negotiations are predicated upon the 1967 lines. There can be no negotiations unless all of what used to be the Jordanian sector of Jerusalem, in addition, Ma'ale Adumim, which is beyond Jerusalem, and Har Choma, which overlooks Bethlehem, are included in what is to become the capital of the Palestinian state, the projected Palestinian state. Now, it doesn't matter whether you agree with him or disagree, but the question is, do the Israelis agree? And is that a good way to get them to come back to the conference table in the light of such positions being taken by President Abbas?
I still believe that the American formula, the American vision of the way they are thinking of the Arab-Israeli conflict is based on illusions. And I doubt very much that these negotiations in any formula suggested by Washington will bring any results, because the gap is still very deep between the two sides. Both sides are committed to certain principles.
And also you have the Hamas lurking in the background, and the fact that President Obama doesn't seem to have that much influence at the moment in this part of the world. And that brings us right to the heart of the issue, Hamas itself, and the report that one of the senior commanders of the Hamas military wing, Mahmoud Mabhouh, was assassinated in Dubai by unknown assailants. whereas the Hamas leadership has been pointing an accusing finger at Israel and saying that it was a job carried out by the Mossad. Well, Jamil, how do you react to that incident?
Look, the war between the Israelis and Hamas and the radical organizations are not a secret. So I am not in a position to confirm what Hamas is accusing Israel, because if you want to accuse Israel, you have to come out with certain elements, with proofs. But still, we are living in a conflict area where everybody is entitled to accuse the other side. And that's the situation which had been prevailing in the Middle East for a long time ago, since 1970s, since the Israelis decided to establish a group to follow up, to chase the Black September people who carried the attack on Munich.
Well, suppose, there are two comments I'd like to make. Suppose the Mossad, the Israeli Mossad, is responsible for the elimination of that Hamas leader, operative. What's wrong with it? I mean, he's a legitimate target. And Israel has every right to carry out the execution of a man who was for 21 years involved in murdering Israelis, murdering Jews, kidnapping them, and so on and so forth, and smuggling advanced systems of arms into the Gaza Strip. This is the first comment. The second comment is that if indeed the Israeli Mossad did it, you have to look at it with bewilderment at what is the Israeli Mossad is eliminating one military leader after another, or what Israel considers to be a danger to its existence.
You're referring
and
to...
this exactly, and this can be carried out only with the cooperation of Arab states such as Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Dubai, because they are sick and tired of Iran. This is the most important thing in the whole.
But even so, if you say that it's not surprising that there is political assassination, then it should not be surprising that there is political political retaliation, and that's what Hamas is threatening right now. And they said that
the Hamas is always threatening. The Hamas, regardless of the actions of the Mossad, will make every attempt to eliminate and execute and kill Jews and Israelis wherever they are.
That may be,
including Israeli leaders.
That may be a predominant Hamas policy, but there was a hudna, a temporary truce, which the Hamas observed.
No, there was no hudna. There was only a declaration of hudna. They never kept it, not even for a day.
What do you say, Jamil?
Well, I disagree with Yitzhak, saying that Israel has the right to do this, because Israel has to take into consideration its reputation, its willingness to have friendly relations with the Arab countries. If you want a friendly relation with an Arab country, you don't go and assassinate one of the leaders there.
I think you really think, Jamil, that Saudi Arabia and Egypt could care less about the assassination of that Hamas leader?
Well, it's not a question whether they care. I think
Saudi Arabia should care, and concerned about the assassination.
Yes, but just before our time runs out, I'd like to say that if Israel is to blame, and if the word blame is appropriate, it may not be. It depends on your point of view. Still, this is not the way the game is played, because in the history of conflict, leaders on both sides usually come out unscathed unless they're arrested afterwards. And here, when you're going for the men at the top who are calling the shots, you're asking for real trouble. Jamil Hamad, I'd like to thank you very much for participating again in our program, and we look forward to having you with us again next week. And Yitzhak Noy of Israel Radio, Jamil is with Time Magazine. It's an honor to have both of you on this panel. And from Tel Aviv, Jay Bushinsky.